I am back with a very quick video giving you my best tips for learning vocabulary without needing to write it down and speaking as a beginner. If I were to restart learning a language from scratch and someone said to me, just speak from day one, I would probably get upset. Like, how am I supposed to speak from day one if I just know how to say hello? Well, it is possible. Now, of course, take this with a caveat. You have to learn vocabulary and basic grammar and sentence structure to help you understand things. It doesn't help if you are diving straight into reading some complex book when you don't even know if the language is subject, object, verb, object, etc. You do have to go through a little phase of trudging through the boring, how do we do sentence structure? How do I pronounce letters? How do I read? What is the 100 most common words? Then you can move on to this and start speaking from day one being, let's say, month one or week one. That being said, I have found that really good academies that teach languages do it exclusively in that language. I took lessons at Alliance Française many years ago, and they just spoke French, like no English in the class. And you learn a lot from context. Okay, so if the teacher's like pointing at this and like, c'est un livre, and you're like, it's like livre, and he points, you're like, oh, livre must mean book, right? You don't need to say book is livre en français. You learn from watching and picking up on details, hand gestures, posture, etc. So it is possible to speak from day one when you are repeating the things that the tutor or your friend or the lesson you're listening to is saying. Then there are two more things you want to do to learn how to speak from day one. You need to learn how to shadow. Even if it is the most basic conversation, you can find a YouTube video of like how to say hello and where are you from in Thai. Listen to where they say the phrases, pause it, and repeat. An app I can recommend that I use every day is Glossica. This is not sponsored by them, but I think Glossica is so amazing because it gives you a phrase, tells you the meaning, and pauses so that you need to repeat it.
Niraj nem akar nyugdíjba menni.
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 This helps you build your pronunciation. You get sentence structure naturally, like you can understand, okay, verbs go at the end, nouns go here, and you learn vocabulary at the same time. I highly recommend doing shadowing from the start. Copy people. And this tip is a little funny, but I promise it works. When I was younger, my brothers and I loved to imitate accents. We went to an international school and it was pretty fun. Like, it wasn't anything rude. We loved to do it with our friends. We would just like imitate each other's accents for fun. But this really helped me learn a language. So please don't take this the wrong way. But if you think of how let's say how Korean people who might not be very fluent in English, how they would pronounce English. It's almost like they are thinking of the English using Hangul. So like, where are you going? So like, I like to drink a coffee. I like to drink coffee. And I promise I'm not doing this to be rude. It's just like, are you thinking of how English would be said using Hangul? I like to drink coffee. And then you take that accent that you can copy or hear, and you put yourself in that mindset and use it when you speak Korean. So instead of sounding like 나는 커피 마셔요, I drink coffee, 나는 커피 마셔요, you hear that like accent you can imitate and be like, okay, 나는 커피 마셔요, I drink coffee, 커피 마셔요, and you I don't know I hope this makes sense, right? So you're imitating the accent while you're speaking the language. That is something that's helped me. And shadowing can also help you get there. Of course, I'm not saying that all Koreans who speak English sound like that. Please do not take this the wrong way. I don't mean any harm. And then my other tip for speaking and improving your accent is listening a lot. It sounds pretty simple, but I always say, there's probably like 10 videos on my channel where I mention listening and speaking go hand in hand. I really think they do. Let me tell you why. So if I stop speaking Japanese or French for a long time, I feel like my accent just gets weaker, like the words don't roll off really comfortably from my tongue. But if I watch a series on Netflix, or if I go into like Hello Talk or Tandem apps where there are these like voice chat rooms, and I just listen to the language a lot, even if I'm not speaking it out loud, I'm hearing it a lot, getting used to the intonation again. Suddenly, it's like I can speak it again. more naturally. The sounds just come out easier once I've listened to it a lot. This, however, does only work, I think, when you are intermediate or advanced and you haven't touched the language in a while. As a beginner, don't be discouraged by this. If you're just starting to speak and you just cannot hit the pronunciation accurately, you will get there. It took me about 1.5 years to learn how to pronounce the difference between "o" and "o" in Korean. And at that time, I had had a tutor for a while, but I couldn't comfortably say "o" versus "o." I tried everything, different forms of romanization, listening a lot, repeating. But it was only when my tutor was sick one day and her husband had to stand in, when he was like, "Your "o" and "o" really suck, let's work on it." And he showed me the position of your mouth and your jaw. Not me having had jaw surgery like 3 weeks ago and struggling to do this, but bear with me. The "o" sound is like your jaw has to be really open. "O." And then the "o" sound, you have to round your mouth. "O." That sounds super simple, like, duh, Lindie, you could have figured this out earlier. But just from like reading Korean the whole time, like "o" and "o," I struggled with that for like 1 year or so. It sounds so embarrassing now because it's really not that hard. But at that point, I had to take a different approach that worked, where somebody actually showed me that is the position of your mouth that you need to do to get those sounds correctly. Now, this is something I have not tried because I'm too scared to learn the phonetic alphabet. But I have friends who are pretty proficient in the phonetic alphabet. And if they can read it, they can really easily pronounce another language just by reading how it is written phonetically. Reading how it is written. Going back to Glossica, if you can read the phonetic alphabet, they also put it under the sentence so that you can learn the pronunciation easier. I don't do that though, it's too much work for me. I just listen and repeat a lot. Shadowing, there are 2 ways that I do it. One is repeating a sentence exactly at the same time and pace as the speaker. And the other one is pausing and saying the sentence afterwards. And there's a third way actually, doing the words from the back. Let me explain. Saying something over a speaker, let's say it's a podcast or a YouTube video, even something that you can slow down to 0.5 or 0.75 speed, that is only something you can do if you know the vocab really well and if you've gone through the other 2 processes I'll mention now. You gotta like listen a lot to be able to repeat over someone exactly at the same time. It's kind of like singing along to a song. I don't know, you gotta hear the melody first before you can sing along. I'm getting way too excited here. I am sweating. The other one, which is probably the best way to do shadowing, especially as a beginner, is to listen to a chunk of a phrase, doesn't have to be the whole sentence, and repeat after it. So then you go, 오늘 날씨가 좋아요. Pause it, 오늘 날씨가 좋아요. Do it over and over. You can also record yourself and hear, is my pronunciation close enough to the speaker's pronunciation? Then, with longer sentences, go word by word from the back. Let me just take Afrikaans sentence because it's a bit easier. Okay, tans is daar seuns wat sokker speel buite. At the moment, there are boys playing soccer outside. That's a long sentence. How do you do that? Word by word. Tans is daar. Okay, now, like at the moment, right now, there is. Tans is daar. Seuns wat. Boys who. Seuns wat. Then you go, tans is daar seuns wat. Soccer speel, playing soccer. Soccer speel, buite, outside. Soccer speel buite. Seuns wat soccer speel buite. Tans is daar. Tans is daar seuns wat. Tans is daar seuns wat soccer speel buite. That was so long, I'm sorry, but I hope it gets the point across that you can break it up and do like 2 to 3 words together and then put it all together so you can say tans is daar seuns wat soccer speel buite a lot faster once you've practiced it. I have a coachee. Hi, if you're watching, you will know who you are. She is like amazing in Greek. She got C2 in Greek. She is going to take the DELF B2 exam for French soon. And she's been learning Korean for 7 or 8 years. So how she does listening, which I would 100% recommend to anyone, is listen to the same thing over and over and over again. It sounds so boring, but I've done it. it works. So you know how if you listen to a song, 2, 3, 4 times, you've got the lyrics, you can sing along. Same thing with shorter pieces of audio like podcasts, YouTube videos. Go through 1, 2, 3 sentences at the same time, listen to it actively. So write down words, read a transcript or subtitles, shadow with it, and then go listen to it when you're washing the dishes, when you're showering, etc. Kind of like spaced repetition, also like how Glossica shows the same sentences a few times until you get it. And then you are just going to remember it. Now, why is this useful? Not just for pronunciation or listening, but also speaking. Maybe it's a podcast about the weather in Japanese. And they might say something like, 今日なんか蒸し暑いね. Like today it's like really humid. 今日なんか蒸し暑いね. And you learn, okay, 蒸し暑い is humid, and なんか is kind of like, I don't know how to explain it in English, just a vibe. 今日なんか today is like, なんか蒸し暑いね. And then you learn, okay, ne is like a particle at the end to ask for agreement or state an interesting new fact, whatever. I'm not going to explain Japanese grammar here. Then you start and just go through a few lines at a time. Might start, 今日なんか蒸し暑いね. And then you're going to hear that same thing over and over and over. It's going to stick in your head. But getting to my point, why does this help? You can start replacing words and learning how to speak on your own. Obviously, if you're talking to a friend and it is humid, like it is today, I am perishing, you can say, 今日なんか蒸し暑いね. Or you replace words. 今日なんか寒いね. Today is cold, right? 今日なんか変な天気だね. Today is like really weird weather. So you know that 蒸し暑い is like, なんだっけ? Humid. And then you're like, okay, that is a adjective. Let me replace it with other adjectives. So, 今日 being a, what is this, a noun? I don't know, whatever, time. And then 今日, you can replace with anything like 明日, 昨日, 明後日. So like today, yesterday, tomorrow, whatever. And then just knowing that structure of like, this is the sentence order. I've heard this so many times. That does help you speak when you want to make your own sentences because you could just swap out words. I hope this video was helpful. Comment if you have any other tips for listening or speaking from day one. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye!